So it's time for Tell Me a Story. And the name of the story that we're reading today is called Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Getaway by Jeff Kinney. When I changed the channel back, the baby stopped crying. I guess I would have been okay with letting the kid watch the show, but the screen was way too close to my face, and the colors on the show were so bright that even when I put on the eye mask that was in the seat pocket, I could still see everything that was happening. When the show finally ended, the baby started crying again, but there was no way I was going to keep watching the show on repeat for the rest of the night, so I decided it was the perfect time to take my shift up in first class. But Roderick noticed I was trying to make a move, and he got out of his seat before I had a chance to. And once he was up in first class, I knew I'd have to wait a while before I could swap places with him. When Mom and Manny came back to their seats, I saw the door to the cockpit open behind them, and the pilot stepped out. I thought there might be some kind of an emergency, so I pressed the button and asked the flight attendant what was going on. He said the pilot just needed to stretch his jet legs and use the bathroom, and the co-pilot had everything under control. I didn't like the fact that we were down to one pilot, even if it was just for a few minutes. Personally, I don't think two pilots is enough, even when they're both in the cockpit. I guess the idea that if one of them has a heart attack, then the other one is supposed to fly the plane. But I asked the flight attendant what happens if the other pilot freaks out and has a heart attack too. The flight attendant told me not to worry, because these planes are so high-tech, they can practically fly themselves. Well, I've heard pilots make a lot of money, so if what the flight attendant was telling me was true, then this could be the career for me. Once the pilot got out of the bathroom, I figured it would be a good idea for me to go too. The only problem was the man to my right was asleep, and I couldn't get over the guy without waking him up. So I went under him, and believe me, that was a lot of fun. I walked toward the front of the plane, but before I even got to the first class section, the flight attendant told me that economy passengers have to use the restroom in the back. The bathroom in the economy section was really small, but being in there was 100 times better than being stuck in my seat. It was sort of like a tiny little apartment. I had it all to myself. In science class, we learned that when human waste gets dropped out of an airplane toilet, it freezes solid. Some guy in my town once found a chunk of waste that fell from a plane, and he thought it was a meteorite. Exclusive meteorite crashes through man's shed. I think the guy was hoping to sell it for a lot of money, but once the thing thawed, he found out what he had was totally worthless. Once I was settled into the bathroom, I figured there was no reason to go back to my seat. So whenever someone else came along to use it, I just made the bathroom noises until they went away. One person must have really needed to go because they shook the door handle so hard that I thought it might actually break off. Then they went away. But a few minutes later, the whole bathroom shook. Tremble, 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 tremble. Whoever was needed to use the bathroom a lot more than I did, so I opened the door. But there was no one there. That's when I realized it wasn't just the bathroom shaking, it was the whole plane. Shake, shudder. I thought we must have landed on the water or lost an engine or something. But then the pilot came over the intercom. Hey, hey, folks, we just hit a little patch of bumpy air. That didn't sound right to me. I figured what really happened was that the pilot fell asleep in his seat and kicked the steering wheel or something. And then he came up with this bumpy air excuse because that's exactly what I do if I were in the same situation. Waza! I guess the flight attendant could see that I was pretty rattled. He said we were just going through a little bit of turbulence, which was perfectly normal for a flight like this. Well, if this kind of thing is normal, then there's no chance I'm ever going to become a pilot. Because if I were flying the plane, I'd be out of there at the first sign of trouble. The flight attendant told me I needed to return to my seat and buckle up. But when I got back there, it was already occupied. I didn't want to move the baby because I knew it would just wake up and start crying again. So I went to the front of the plane to kick Roderick out of the first class and let him deal with the baby. But I couldn't get to him. One of the wheels on the beverage cart had broken because of the turbulence, and it was blocking my way. I was out of options, so I went back to my seat. Don't ask me how, but I was actually able to get an hour or two of sleep, and I was so tired I didn't even wake up when we landed. Tuesday. I was so worried about getting through the flight that I never thought about where we were actually going. But when I stepped off the plane, it was like walking into a whole new world. I've got to admit, as soon as I felt that tropical air hit my skin, I could understand why Dad was so eager to escape the cold back home. We got our luggage off the conveyor belt in baggage claim, then followed the signs to where a big shuttle bus was waiting. Even though the air outside felt great, the air conditioning on the bus felt even better, and the seats in this thing were nicer than the area ones in first class. Once all the passengers boarded the bus, we headed to the resort. A video played on the overhead monitors, and it was about 1,000,000 times more fun than the one on the plane. The video showed all the cool activities at the resort, and I wanted to do them all. Oh, look at all the pictures. One of the activities was swimming with dolphins, and that's something I've always wanted to do. But there was a bunch of other stuff that looked cool too. I was hoping they might let us combine activities so I could do everything before we had to go home. I felt kind of bad for being so negative about this trip up until then, and I turned around to tell Mom and Dad I was sorry, but I wish I had just kept watching the video instead. Kiss, smooch. When we stopped off the bus at the resort, the staff greeted us and handed Mom and Dad frozen drinks. Welcome to paradise. We gave our bags to these guys wearing white gloves, and they said they'd take them directly to our room. And I gotta say, I was impressed. We went to the front desk, and the lady there explained how everything worked. She said the resort was all inclusive, so we didn't need to use cash or credit cards. The way we paid for stuff was with these plastic cards that doubled as our room keys. Mom and Dad told the receptionist they wanted to stay in the same building they stayed in for their honeymoon. But the lady said the resort had changed since then. She said that now the resort was split into two halves, the wild side and the mild side. The place Mom and Dad had stayed was on the wild side, and kids aren't allowed over there. So she showed us where our building was on the map. Here's the map. I could tell Dad was disappointed by the changes, but Mom said it was better this way. She said this was a family trip and we didn't need to be around a bunch of young couples partying anyway. I didn't really care which side of the resort we were on because it looked to me like both sides had the same basic stuff. What I really cared about was the room. Usually when my family stayed at a hotel, we all share a room and I have to sleep on a cot or a sofa bed. So I was pretty shocked to find out we were in a suite with plenty of space. There were 2 rooms in the suite. We all had to share one bathroom, but me and Roderick each had our own bed, which was the main thing. All I can say is Mom and Dad must have dropped a lot of money on this trip. There was a TV in the room I was sharing with Roderick, and even better than that, there was a robe in the closet. I called the robe right away, but Roderick didn't even fight me for it. Roderick always makes fun of me when I wear Mom's robe back at home, but I think robes are cool, and there are a lot of guys out there who can agree with me on that. The shower in the bathroom was huge, and all the floors and sinks and everything were made of marble. There was a TV above the bathtub, and there was even a phone next to the toilet. I figured if I could get room service delivered to the bathroom, I'd have everything I needed in one place. From the balcony in Mom and Dad's room, I could see the pool over on the wild side of the resort, and it was really big. It wasn't just some regular pool either. It looked kind of like a river and had all these islands in the middle of it. Mom said it was one of the biggest free-form pools in the world. I was pretty excited about that because I knew we had the same thing on our side of the resort. I wanted to go check it out, but first I needed to change my clothes. I went to open the big suitcase, but it was locked. I asked Dad for the key, but he said our suitcase didn't have a lock. Dad looked at the tag on the suitcase and it had someone else's name on it. Turned out we had actually accidentally grabbed the wrong suitcase from baggage claim at the airport. Before it was too late, Dad called the airline to see if they still had our suitcase. But the people at the airline said that since no one had claimed our baggage, it was sent back to the address on the luggage tag. It wasn't a total disaster, though. We'd moved some clothes from the big suitcase to our carry-on bags back at the airport, so we had a few things. I had my bathing suit, but I didn't have a lot of other stuff. My flip-flops and sunglasses were in the big bag, along with a bunch of other things I had packed. Dad said they sell the stuff we were missing at the resort store, so we went to check it out. But everything in the store cost 5 times as much as it would back home, and Dad said he wasn't going to pay those prices. Mom said we could wear the same clothes every day and wash them ourselves. So the only thing we bought in there was a bottle of sunscreen and a toy pail and shovel for Manny to use at the beach. Mom said it's really important to wear sunscreen at a place like this because it's so close to the equator. But she didn't have to convince me. I've seen what the sun can do to your skin, and I don't want to look like a raisin when I'm older. That's the reason I spend as much time indoors as I can. And later on in life, all my friends are going to wish they had too. Happy 80th birthday to Greg. I thought the fact that we came during Christmas break meant that we'd have the place to ourselves. But I guess a lot of other people had the exact same idea. It wasn't just the pool that was crowded, though. There were people everywhere. I was really looking forward to relaxing in the hot tub until I saw it. We found a few lounge chairs in the shade and put our stuff down. You could tell it was the middle of winter because just about everyone looked out of shape, just like me. Every once in a while, I think about exercising and getting really buff, but in the future, I'll bet everyone will just be able to take a pill and get fit without having to exercise anyway. Being in great shape will be normal, and all the people who aren't fit will be the ones everyone's attracted to. So if I just stick with my current exercise plan, I'll be all set. Ooh la la! Pool was too crowded to go swimming, so I decided to just put a towel over my head and catch up on some sleep. Even though it was hot out, there was a nice breeze and I started to drift off. But right in the middle of my nap, some guy showed up and ruined the whole vibe. Who's ready to party? This called himself the director of fun, and apparently his job was to get everybody moving. Clap, 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 clap. Unfortunately, this guy was good at his job, and somehow he roped me into one of his activities. Yank. But I wish he hadn't, because there was a lot more touching than I was comfortable with. Shake, shake, shake. After the Congo line ended, the director of fun said the next activity was the treasure dive, and it was just for kids. I wasn't interested in doing some stupid kiddie thing, so I sat back down. But when he hauled out a giant bucket of coins, that got my attention. He told all of us kids to line up at the edge of the pool, and then he started tossing giant handfuls of cash in the water. And it wasn't a bunch of pennies either. It was dimes and quarters. I'm pretty sure I saw some silver dollars in there too. Swoosh, toss. By the time the bucket was empty, there must have been $400 sitting at the bottom of the pool. Everyone waited along the edge for the director of fun to blow his whistle. When he did, it was a total free-for-all. Knock, kick. I managed to get about $2 in coins on my first dive. I put them at the edge of the pool near my lounge chair, but some sneaky kids swooped in and cleared me out. He wasn't the only cheater, though. Some kids in the pool were actually wearing pants and had stuffed his pockets full of coins. That gave everyone else the same idea, and now kids were stuffing coins wherever they could. When it was all over, I think I ended up with about $3 in change. After the kids cleared out of the pool, I figured it was a good time to get in the water and go for a relaxing swim. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this part of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and we'll see you again on Wednesday. This is Ani Balda, wishing for you a happy and healthy day today. Goodbye.